Faster than a speeding bullet.
I ran until my muscles burned and my veins pumped battery acid.
More powerful than a locomotive.
An idea is like a virus. Resilient. Highly contagious.
Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
All right, Josh, I'm super pumped to have you on the show, man. Welcome to the Better Humanology podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we're going to get started with some challenges for the listeners, get the mind primed, the body primed. So we're going to kick off with that right away. So I'm going to throw it to you. If you could give us a fitness challenge for everybody listening.
Yeah, fitness challenge, people go to the gym a lot, and that's a great thing to do. But I've found that most people are most challenged when they're outside the gym. Typically, the gym time is where people unload, de-stress, and unwind. But how about challenging your fitness when you're not inside the four walls of the club? So what I like to do is I like to do a push, pull, and plank challenge. So pushing can be as many bodyweight push-ups as you can do to failure. Pull-ups is the same thing. If you don't have a pull-up bar, you can always just go to a bench or find a chair, or just find a way to pull up and do that to failure. And then a plank to failure. I'll tell you, those major muscle groups, that fitness challenge, push, pull, plank, no matter who you are, no matter how much you weigh or what your condition is, you do that correctly. And that's going to be probably the biggest challenge that you have all week because you're doing it outside the gym.
Awesome, man. Is that like your go-to when you're traveling or something like that?
Absolutely. I mean, look, we don't always have the time or the resources to get inside of a facility. So, being a great human involves being adaptive, and being adaptive involves just using what we have, and everybody's got a body. I mean, if you didn't have a body, you'd be dead.
Exactly. Awesome, dude. How about a mental toughness challenge?
So this one is interesting because a lot of people think of mental toughness as being able to withstand stress or being able to withstand distraction. And in my mind, there's no greater tool, no greater guidepost to someone's ability to be able to transcend stress and incessant monkey mind than meditation. Even for the biggest lifters out there, the biggest athletic readiness people that are using HRV and they are all skilled in everything human movement, sometimes not moving at all, just sitting still and doing box breathing is the most challenging thing for the mind because the mind loves to be in motion, loves to operate, loves to be incessantly busy. But when you clear that out and you create the space for just being with yourself, watching the thoughts go by, being the observer of your thoughts, that's when the challenges truly arise. And then, of course, through meditation, you're actually pruning your synapses. You're doing neuroplasticity rewiring to your mental program, which is essentially like upgrading your hardware every single time you do it. So meditation is 10 minutes to 20 minutes, 1 to 2 times a day. And you can do that honestly anywhere, but try not to do it in a room where there's screaming children, because then you're going to be even more challenged.
Yeah, but if you can get to that point where you can meditate in a room full of screaming children, then you're at like a new level of Zen. Right?
You might start floating off the ground with a white cape.
That's awesome, dude. So have you been meditating for a while?
I have been meditating. 2014 is when I started to really dig in. 2015, I launched the WellnessFX podcast, and then I started to interview people around this space, recovery, meditation. And I started to learn about neuroplasticity, and I was like, okay, I'm in.
That's awesome, man. So how about like a quick, I'm going to take this challenge just a little bit deeper. So how about a quick, maybe recommendation for someone who's just looking to get started in meditation who maybe hasn't tried it before?
Okay, well, we can go kind of deep here since you queued me up. I like to do really an emotional inventory. So anyone that's listening right now, if you're in a place of your life where you're constantly getting better, or if you're in a place where you're progressively getting better, there's two spaces. It's like you're either happy with what you have and you're content, or you're moving towards something at a rapid pace. Now, no matter what camp you fall in, if you do an emotional inventory, that is going to be the most successful starting point. A lot of people can get paralysis by analysis. They'll say, should I meditate? Should I do training? Should I go to an emotional intelligence workshop? You can go down the road and actually get caught up in your own thoughts, which block you from ever taking any inspired action at all. And so how to do this, the first step to taking this emotional inventory is you get in a workout, you get in a breakfast, you shower, and you then take a 2-hour space for yourself. And you turn off your phone. You do a technology fast for 2 hours. And just notice how, for most of us, how challenging that is to be without technology for 2 hours. And when I mean without technology, I mean it's you, a book, maybe a jug of water, and a park. and you go sit by yourself for 2 hours. You block out those 2 hours. When you get to the park, you're going to open up your journal. You're going to do 5 sequences of box breathing. I learned box breathing from Mark Divine at the Unbeatable Mind Summit a couple of years back. It's been a total game changer for me. I know it's going to help you too, because really what you're doing is you're priming your nervous system for relaxation and for creativity. Box breathing is this. Visualize a box. A box has 4 sides. You're going to inhale for 5 seconds. You're going to hold your breath for 5 seconds. You're going to exhale slowly for 5 seconds. And then you're going to pause for 5 seconds. Notice how there was 4 segmentations of my 5-second inhale, exhale, hold, and pause. That is a box. Do 5 of those. Then with your journal, this is where the real work begins. You write on a page a line going from the middle all the way to the bottom. On the right side, you're going to list 10 things that you're deeply grateful for. It could be your family. It could be your friends. It could be your job. It could be anything at all that gives you joy, something that makes you feel like you're vibrating at a higher frequency. On the other side of the page, this is where you're going to dig in. This is where you're going to list the 10 things that are causing you the most pain, the most suffering, the most stress. So by the end of the exercise, you're going to have 20 items, 10 on the left that you're grateful for, 10 on the right that you know in your deepest core, your deepest heart, that those get to change. Then comes the challenging part. Out of the 10, you're going to pick 1 on the right that you are most stressed out by. It could be a person, could be a thing, could be maybe your physical body, whatever it is. In that space, you're then going to pick that one thing. When you do that, circle it. Then on the other side of your journal, on a blank page, write that thing down that's causing you the most stress. When you finally decide to do that, that's the most powerful thing. It's honestly, Jerry, what most people don't do. And then what you're going to do to support the change that you've created is you're going to pick one thing that you're most grateful for. As you change the thing that you most despise or that you most are having trouble with, you're going to use that one pillar of gratitude as your mantra every single day, every single time you're in the throes, you're in that inflection point of changing the thing you don't like. And this is the last part of this emotional inventory. When you get to that third stage where you're actually taking inspired, dedicated action, this is where you speak it into existence. You write it on your Facebook page. You tell your best friends. Be careful who you tell your greatest struggles with, because sometimes, even though they love us, our closest family and friends can actually sabotage our greatest desires. So be careful, be selective who you tell people your emotional inventory results for. And then as you build that community, Jared, as you build that group around you, that trusted group, make sure that you're being truthful and vocal, really talking about what you're changing, why you're changing it, and the one thing you're grateful for in those moments where it's going to be the most hard to change. You do that, and that can be something that you can start putting into your meditation practice. A lot of times people will meditate and they won't have any direction. They'll just kind of sit there. But if you prime yourself, you get your workout, you get your food, you get your shower, you take 2 hours out, go to the park, just you, a pen, and a journal. Then you get clear with that emotional inventory. And then at the end of that process, you at least have a starting point. You at least have a shot in the dark. Otherwise, if you don't plan, if you don't take an inventory, you're not going to have as much success as if you ran a business that checks stock of all the products that it had. And, your life, man, it's a business. We're all running a business. It's just the business of you.
I love that, man. That's a phenomenal exercise. And I like that it starts with the technology fast. This is something we've discussed on the podcast a few times, is challenging people to go without technology. And I'm just curious about you personally. Is that something that you try and do daily, weekly, monthly? What do you do on like a technology fast for yourself?
Sundays are my technology fast day. I take a minimum of 2 hours, but most of the time it's 4 to 6 hours where I don't even have my phone on me. I mean, look, we are being programmed. This isn't some scare tactic. I'm not trying to be controversial, but the reality is that this is the first time in human evolution where our limbic brain has been under this much attack. And when I say attack, I mean there are billions of dollars being spent by Fortune 50, Fortune 500 companies to addict you. And I said the word addiction because it's true. One of the fastest segments in addiction and recovery is technology. This is very scary. My nephew is 13 years old, and I was even looking at a photo of him today. He had his phone in his pocket 3 years ago, and I'm just like, they've got them when they're young. This is what the food companies did. This is what the tobacco companies did, and they went to court for it. And eventually, technology will be there as well. But as of right now, it's our responsibility as conscious men and women to safeguard our limbic brain from technology's addictive grasp.
I couldn't agree more, man. And that's and maybe we could dive into that a little bit more later in the podcast, but I want to get to the book recommendation. So how about a book recommendation for everybody listening?
The book recommendation for anyone that's interested in up-leveling their emotional and their physical intelligence is The Presence Process by Michael Brown. Now, you might start out and you might be a little scared. This book might seem a little woo-woo, but I'll tell you, in the books that use the type of language that might scare you and might make you make fun of it because it's woo-woo, it's actually paradoxically probably the one that can serve you at your deepest core to make you the strongest. This emotional inventory process, this presence process that Michael Brown talks about, this can be applied to movement professionals, people that work with clients shoulder to shoulder, breath to breath, anyone at all that wants to be a better and more well-rounded fitness and wellness-based human. You have to be emotionally sound. Most of the choices that go on in life when it comes to unhealthy foods, they come from a deep pain body. These unhealthy, deleterious health behaviors come from wounds and from scars in our subconscious mind. And so Michael Brown's presence process, this really dives into knowing yourself, this self-awareness aspect that is not talked about in the fitness industry. And it's one that I'm proud to speak about more often.
All right, man, let's get into that a little bit. So you're just talking about, your work in the fitness industry, and I kind of want to take that backwards. How you got into Wellness Force Radio, all that you're doing it today. If you could just give us, the series of events, the story that got you to where you are today, and then I'm sure that I'll have a lot of hopping off points in that.
Yeah, my story is honestly just a mirror of a lot of people that go into the health and wellness industry. If you look across the board, yoga, massage, trainers, anyone at all that for a living helps other people get more emotionally or physically well, it's typically because 8 times out of 10, I've found that they have gone through struggles or a massive struggle themselves. And like my case was no different. I was a really young kid. I didn't know what it was like to have a home life that was safe. My mom at that time struggled with a bipolar disease. My dad left home when I was really, really young, 2 years old. And so I never really had that sense of home being a safe space. So what this did is in that little mind, in that little child's mind, it made him seek safety. If in the first 7 years of our lives, we don't get safety, we're going to get it from somewhere. And that was my case. I found this drug that a lot of people use, but no one likes to talk about. And my drug, Jared, was food. So I'm this little kid and, I'm feeling all these feelings I didn't know how to feel, not feeling safe, not feeling really like the physiological or even the psychological tool sets were in place. And so, needless to say, no surprise, throughout my childhood and adolescence, I was using food as a way to numb the feelings. I just didn't have the mental faculty to process. So I'm 21 years old. I'm 280 pounds. I'm in this job that I freaking hate. I'm in a relationship I don't like. And I just was at a party drinking once. Those red party cups where people play beer pong?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm at a party. I'm drinking out of a red plastic cup. I had tried to lose weight for about a year. I'm 21 years old, and I just slammed the cup down, and I just felt this feeling, really from God, from higher intelligence. And it was like, there's more to life than this. It was like a lightning bolt that shot through my body, and I slammed the cup down, and I ran home drunk, man. I ran home drunk for like 3 miles, opened up the computer, and I think I typed in like, how do I be healthy? And that led me on an 18-month journey of losing weight the wrong way and just getting really frustrated, kind of come to this point where I just hated my body so much, and I was so uncomfortable in my body that I just sold everything I owned. And I moved to Hawaii, and I spent 6 months surfing and hiking and fishing and studying health and wellness, and just really just having like a dark night of the soul evolution, getting to a point then where I understood, you actually integrate fitness as a lifestyle. It's not just something you do to get a body and then you'll feel happy. So that led me into fitness. And I'll never forget this, man. I was at a gym working out at a 24-hour fitness. And the fitness manager came up to me and he's like, hey, I've seen you getting good results. Have you ever thought about being a trainer? And I turned to him and I was like, what's a trainer? I didn't even know what personal training was. And then it led me on this 10-year journey of coaching clients, running teams, leaving the fitness industry, which we can talk about, coming back to the wellness industry, formulating Wellness Force, then being fired from a job, then growing the podcast, and now getting to talk to you, honestly, which has just been this path of following my soul, following my heart, following what I love, or going the path of fear. And when I chose the path towards love, it wasn't easy, but man, it's really paid off.
That sounds like quite a journey, man. I love I want to start at the beginning part of that story. There's two really cool things. This epiphany. You slammed the red cup down and then just decided that you wanted to be healthy, man. That's just, I don't know, maybe you could describe more in the moment for me. That's really an incredible experience I don't think a lot of people have had. And I would love to just hear maybe how it felt and what was going through your mind and everything else.
Yeah, think of it like a culmination. For many of us, we go through what Joseph Campbell calls the hero's journey, which is separation, initiation, and return. And so before we actually find what it is we're supposed to do on this planet, sometimes our learning curve can be years, decades even. And it's really because we have this paradox of choice that causes us the most suffering. And so in that moment, when I'm drinking the beer, I'm unhappy, I gained all this weight, I didn't have the tools, I knew there was a connection to higher intelligence, to God, whatever you believe. I don't care what you believe. There's something that controls everything, right? So that for me was a download. I mean, I was touched in that moment where I had no clarity, Jared. I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know how I was going to let go of the weight. I had no idea how to live a healthy lifestyle. No idea how to live a healthy lifestyle. But I got to this point where, my pain pleasure curve, I had experienced so much pain that my nervous system, and it just kind of broke open my soul. My nervous system gave my soul a message, and it said, I know that there's something else. I just don't know what that is. And I know that I am committed from this moment forward to never be in this place again, to never allow myself to feel that much stress, that much self-hatred. And really, it was just putting out my hand to the universe, trusting that there was something bigger, something bolder, something that's in more control, and just trusting in that. And that was my journey, which, by the way, had many relapses, many challenges along the way. I think that really, when I look back, what hit me in the chest when I was 21 was myself. It was my deepest self, my authentic self, the one that loves me, the one that cares about me, the one that I've come to know now. And that's been my journey around helping other people as well. And that's really what led me to formulate Wellness Force. It's honestly, man, it's the discovering process. It's not like there's going to be a finish line. There's no there. We're always in the process of this discovering this physical and emotional intelligence. And my journey truly began at that moment with the red cup. The journey before that was just this like what I knew space. But it took me separating from what I knew to be initiated into this world of health and wellness. And now I feel like I've come back. I feel like this is the true hero's journey cycle, which there'll probably be more.
Well, I think it's really cool. I just love it when do you ever dive into any Tony Robbins stuff?
Yeah, I haven't been to UPW, but I've just been like a quasi long distance mentee of Tony Robbins, like so many of us.
Yeah, and he talks about, the ability to change happens like in an instant. That's one of his big takeaways is like it happens like that, and that's very similar to what happened to you. And he even has a similar story where he I don't remember what was happening or exactly, but he was just got home and he was in his apartment and realized he was incredibly overweight and hated himself for it, and so he just started running until he threw up because he didn't know what to do or how to do it, but he just knew he needed to be better. So I love hearing stories like that.
Yeah.
You kind of got this call to action, because I think some of us maybe get that in the back of our minds, but we don't maybe act on it right away. And I think that it's really cool that you got that and you're just like, boom, I'm taking action. So, and it's led you to such an amazing journey. Now you talk about getting into the fitness industry, and it sounds like that your 6 months in Hawaii sound amazing, but you eventually got into the fitness industry, but then you left. So what was it that caused you to leave the fitness industry and then later come back into the wellness space?
Yeah. So the challenging part for most people, myself is included in that big group, is that the majority of fitness professionals, they are practicing the art of fitness. And I say art because it's truly an evolving art form. They practice the art of fitness because it's a way for them to shine a really bright light on everyone else. But what happens is the brighter the light you shine on other people, if there's those dark parts of yourself that you haven't dealt with, they're just going to fester. And when I say dark parts of yourself, I mean unprocessed emotions, pain body, as Eckhart Tolle describes in his work, or even if you think about the untethered soul and kind of the deeper aspects of the subconscious mind, the scarring that we have over the course of life. If we have these stuck energies, these psychological burdens that are running in the background, kind of like, how our apps on our phone are always running, the same thing applies to our nervous system because it is tapped in to our ancient brain. And so for me, I never really dealt, Jared. I didn't deal with all the stuff that had happened in the first 15 years of my life. I just kind of pushed it down. I did sports in high school. I did all these things to kind of quell the pain, to kind of appease the pain. But truly processing the pain for release is a whole different story. And so I didn't do that. And I trained clients 10,000 hours, 10 years. And I just started to feel like, God, there's so much more to life than just counting people's reps on a clipboard and, being somebody's appointment when they got done getting their nails did. and so I got to this point as a trainer where I just was fed up and I wanted to help people, but I didn't know. So I left the fitness industry. And I went to go in the technology industry, which looking back, it was a total gift because I started to learn about technology and how that applies to people that need mirrors of mindfulness and behavior change. But I sold technology software in the endurance sports industry. And I'll never forget this. This is another transition moment. I sit down at the desk my first day after being a trainer on my feet for 10 years. And I realized, oh my God, what have I done? This is where grown men go to die. And no offense to anyone that has a sedentary job, because you can have a sedentary job and still be on purpose and have passion. But I realized in that moment that I'd made a terrible mistake. And it took me 2.5 years actually, to leave that space, to know that just because money was coming in, I was also committing spiritual suicide. I mean, I was not following my heart, and my heart was in learning my emotional and physical intelligence, which I honestly hadn't done. I had gotten the physical stuff. I'd done the training and I'd, gotten my body down to like 15% body fat, and I'd helped a bunch of people. I probably helped people lose thousands of pounds of weight combined. But the deeper aspects, that was the stuff I didn't explore. And when I got fired, I actually got fired in 2014 from that career, which was such a gift. But at the time, I was freaking the hell out because I'm like, what am I going to do? This is my money. This is my safety. And it took me getting my ass thrown against a brick wall for me to realize, oh, this is actually putting me back into the loop of behaviors that I never dealt with the first round. And so I really dug in. I went to emotional intelligence trainings. I read books. I started listening to even more podcasts. And I got to this point where I just knew in my deepest core that I had everything it took to be able to lead other people. Everything else that I had told myself was a big story. And in some of these workshops, man, it was a lot of crying, a lot of screaming, a lot of processing these emotions the ones that were dark when I was shining light on other people as a trainer. And I got to this point where I just started to trust myself again. It's really challenging for any of us to trust ourselves if we have emotional baggage inside that's weighing us down. That weight is exhausting. You can't trust yourself if you're consistently tired. And so it's this emotional inventory, this processing that all of us get to do that are wellness, health, and fitness pros, anyone at all that works with humans, making humans better. This was the real work. This was the real work that I finally started to do in my early 30s, which I'm 37 now. And it's been 7 years of digging in, letting go, moving on. And look, I had to laugh right now because that's the first time I've actually told that story like that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And that's kind of what led you to, taking more of this, instead of being, like you said, being a trainer, counting the reps on a clipboard, you wanted to impact people in a greater way, I'm guessing. Is that what led you to Wellness Force Radio?
Yeah, I mean, impacting people in a bigger way only comes from comprehensive spectrum analysis. Just diet and exercise doesn't help people. It's a catalyst. But if we want to help people, we must engage them at their body, mind, and soul. Yeah,
and that's the thing about fitness. If you never dive into the mindset or psychology, and you're not able to, and a lot of times in a one-on-one trainer situation, it's not even maybe possible, unless you're get to know that person really well over time. But yeah, you're not going to really affect any long-term change. And so I think it's really cool, your journey, your path that you've been on. So what are you most fired up about doing now?
You know what I'm fired up about now is understanding the science behind emotional intelligence. Emotions are hard to quantify, Jared. I'm a healthy skeptic, which I know people listening are as well. And the hardest part about emotional intelligence is it's hard to quantify results. When it comes to physical, we can always stack our PRs, our weights, our distance, our time, all that stuff is easy to quantify. So you kind of know when you're improving. But I'm really fascinated by this science of quantum theory and energetic emotions, vibrational analysis, where we're using hertz to measure HRV, to measure emotional intelligence, to measure someone's respiration, to measure their nervous system as they're practicing meditation and mindfulness and understanding how much our physical body is filtered through a lens of our emotional well-being and vice versa. I mean, this wing, this frequency, this is the program that my team and I are currently in development of, is understanding what's your wellness frequency? What is this method to drop into the frequency of wellness? Wellness essentially is frequency. When you go for a run, when you eat healthy food, when you sleep well, those are all high frequency, high vibrational actions. And so it's the quantification of that that's most fascinating to me.
Yeah, and I think that the science and research being done in this field is what's going to bring a lot of people on board who've only ever seen this stuff as, something they didn't want to be a part of, or like you mentioned earlier in your book recommendation, maybe, woo-woo, like a little out there for them or something.
Sure.
But once you start to realize that it's way more mathematical and scientific than you could ever realize, it gets very exciting. Like you're saying, it's really cool to dive into. So could you talk a little bit more about these frequencies, or, how this works and how people, or how you maybe plan, you said it's in development, plan to help implement this in people's lives?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for asking this. I mean, really, this stems from the work of Dr. Hawkins, David Hawkins, big lecturer, expert on the mental process. He's been on TV, just American Psychiatric Association Awards. He was an old school psychiatrist. I mean, back in the day with Earl Nightingale in the 50s. So he did this life of research and spiritual teachings, and he started to come out with scientific papers on orthomolecular psychiatry. And he also wrote a paper with a Nobel Prize winner around, therapy and how this vibrational aspect, how we can quantify vibration. And so he developed this scale of frequency, and the frequency measurements are via hertz. Now, hertz is essentially just how many times something happens. So if you jump on a trampoline 5 times, that's 5 hertz. So hertz isn't always the most scientific scale. But when we look at consciousness and vibration, the lowest vibrational effort for any of us is actually shame. On a scale of 0 to 1,000, shame measures 20 hertz. So when you're feeling shame, when you're miserable in shame and humiliation, like when your parents talk down to you and kind of crushed your dreams, or friends and family make fun of you and you feel shame, that is a 20 level hertz vibration. Now, at the very top, if you start going through all the different ones, being frightened to being satisfied, then being in happiness, then joy, then peace. Obviously, at the top is consciousness, pure consciousness. That's 1,000. But the emotions of joy and gratitude measures 750 hertz. So knowing that a shame emotion will put your electrical system, this is your body. Your body is an electrical system. Your electrical system will vibrate at 20 hertz in shame. Your electrical system will vibrate at 750 hertz when you practice happiness, when you practice the art of gratitude. This scale has many deviations, many different measurements. But if we understand through science that meditation raises our vibration, and exercise and sleep and all these things, it's finally quantifying, Jared, our emotions. Because in the fitness space, and honestly, for most people, there's a lot of poo-poo. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors. And honestly, there's a lot of charlatans when we look at the consciousness exploration space or even personal development. So I want to bring a lot more of the wellness and fitness quantification to the self-development world. And I want to do that through this scale of, power versus force. So the book that he wrote is Power versus Force. It's the hidden determinants of human behavior. One of the best books ever.
I think that's really awesome. Now, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about gratitude. Would you say that there is a particular way that you need to go about either having a gratitude practice or actually, feeling. And the reason I ask, personally, I've had numerous different journals over the years, and a lot of the, new ones have some sort of gratitude practice in them. And for me, in all honesty, it was really good at first, but over time, it wasn't really good because not necessarily, I was still doing it, which was good, but it became so habitual, like this, almost like a checklist, that I wasn't actually, there was no real feelings of gratitude, going on after about a few months using some of these journals. And I kind of realized that, kind of zoomed out, and I was like, this isn't how this should be done. And so I want to know if you could talk about that a little bit more on, actually achieving that frequency, what you might have to do in the gratitude space.
Yeah, the gratitude practice. Scott Colby, a great fitness pro, he has Say It With Gratitude, which is an organization that actually allows people to practice gratitude by filling out and sending cards to people. Now, a handwritten card, it takes time, it takes effort. But think about this. How beautiful, how high vibrational do you feel when you send somebody a handwritten card and you know they're going to open it and feel awesome? That right there is a distinctive, inspired action of gratitude. Gratitude isn't just something that you think. Gratitude is also something that you do. So with gratitude, it's a practice. All this stuff, happiness, high vibration, gratitude, it's all a practice. If we're practicing it, that's when we actually feel in ourselves that we know someone else is feeling it too. It's kind of like when you buy somebody a gift. And if you look at the 5 love languages, the 5 love languages are kind of a framework to understand how you feel about love in relationships, even a relationship with yourself or a relationship with other people. These 5 love languages, these are like, acts of service, quality time, words of affirmation, physical touch. These love languages are things that transmit gratitude. You're grateful. You put that gratefulness into action. The framework for gratitude is it in your consciousness? You first have to want to practice it, then you have to practice it, and then you can look back on how you practiced it. That's the framework. Can I do it? Do I want to do it? And did I do it? And I hate to be that simplistic and that reductionistic, but it's like, it is that simple. It's not always that easy because a lot of us are running around so busy, so frenetic, so just inundated. Gay and Katie Hendricks call this weapons of mass distraction. We are under attack all day long. And so practicing our gratitude through our distinctive love languages to increase our frequency. If I've lost anyone, just check why I've lost you. If you think I'm using too much esoteric verbiage or if this is too woo-woo, replay that tape, rewind this podcast again and really listen again, because it's about how you feel and it's about your health and your wellness in the way that you interrelate to yourself and other people. That's what this whole gratitude practice is all about.
I think that's great. And yeah, like I said, the reason I ask is because for me personally, checklists, discipline, habits don't challenge me that much. If I want to do something, I'm just, having been in fitness for decades and everything, creating new habits and just getting things done. But I've really had to focus on my awareness and intent with some of these activities, because then I'll just end up adding 50 different tasks in my day with no real, I'll get them all done. Like they'll be checked off, but it's like, there's no real intent, on how I achieved it. So I just wanted to dive into that a little bit more with you. So I appreciate you, kind of breaking it down like that. Now, speaking of habits and discipline and things like that, would you describe yourself as a pretty habitual or disciplined person?
I like to operate with what Dr. Jade Teta calls flexible scheduling, flexible dieting, flexible living. I have a key fundamental practice that I do to start my day. I also have, kind of 3 keystone habits. So those are the things that I lean on. But when it comes to scheduling, I really got to say, like, the number one thing that everyone can do to eliminate so much stress in their life is use your calendar. People don't do this. Yeah. People think that calendar is actually something that's clamping down on their time. But what's interesting is that when you are disciplined about your time, you have so much more freedom. And it's such a paradox because you think, well, I'm at work all day and I have to use a schedule at work all day. And like when I get out of work, I don't want anyone to talk to me. I don't want anyone to have my time or to schedule anything. But I'm an entrepreneur. I know you are as well. And anyone that's listening, your job, whether you want to see it that way or not, you're an entrepreneur as well. I mean, you give a service and you get paid for that service. Or whatever you do, you get paid for what you do. So with what you do, how does that integrate into the rest of your life? And is the rest of your life dovetailing with your work? Do you sit in a car and then sit at work and then sit in a car on the way home to then sit in front of the TV to then lay down and maybe you pop in 45 minutes of CrossFit? I'll tell you right now, like that's not using your time effectively. We know the studies are showing that if we can instill movement breaks, movement snacks, as Daryl Edwards calls them, throughout our day, we're going to have such a healthy life. And it really just starts, Jared, with using the calendar. That is the number one quote hack that anyone can do, is like literally if you want to take a walk break, lunch break, business meeting, hanging out with your wife, going on a date, hanging with your friends, going to the grocery store, put it in your calendar. If you put it in your calendar, then you can breathe easy. You don't have to remember all of these things all day long, because decision fatigue will set in. Decision fatigue is a real thing.
I think it's a simple but so true, like simple but true answer there. And I know I had this a major breakthrough, especially being an entrepreneur. I had a business coach, and I was trying to achieve some business goals, and he was walking me through this process. And he's like, okay, here's what we want to achieve. Let's reverse engineer it. And then it got all the way down. You start big all the way down to this small task that you need to do. And he was just like, we're sitting on the phone on this coaching call, and he's like, we're going over the step-by-step things that need to happen. And he's like, okay, when does this one happen? And I was like, I probably do it this week or next week. And he's like, no. He's like, open your calendar. He's like, when, what time, for how long, and put it on there. And we did this, I felt like a child, but it was really necessary at that time to realize how powerful that could be. And by the end of that call, we had it marked out, every bit of my calendar, what was going to happen and when and why and how long things were going to take. And I've been doing that for a long time now, and it having that discipline in your calendar gives you a lot of freedom later on, and you're able to do so much more with your time.
Oh, absolutely. And it's such, like I said, a paradox, because someone might feel, well, I'm under someone else's calendar all day long, but where's your calendar? Like, where's your calendar for you? You're giving yourself love. It's actually a self-care practice that you adhere to your calendar. And
what kind of daily rituals or routines do you do? I know you said you're kind of flexible maybe in them or the times that they're done, but what is it that you do on a daily basis?
So in the morning, there's a 10-minute space, a 20-minute space, minimum 10, typically, 10 to 20 minutes of total silence, just breath work. I've been using the Juve meditation system, where it's actually I meditate, so I get full light spectrum photobiomodulation in the morning, and then I'll meditate just in silence. Sometimes I'll light a candle, and I just be with myself. Start my day with myself, because I'm going to be with myself for the rest of the day. So I get to know myself in the morning for 10 to 20 minutes, and that really sets up my nervous system to trust myself throughout the day, to be in more of a state of calm. And then after that, the coffee will be done brewing. I'll have coffee. Actually, sometimes don't even shower because I work from home so much. so I might even skip the shower, or I'll go for a workout. And then I also have structured breaks where it'll literally say in my calendar, like when we're done here, I'm going to take a 5-minute walk. So it's just in there. I just follow my calendar. I just lean on that calendar so much. There will be a time, I'm sure, where my calendar isn't as full. I don't know when that's going to be. So until then, I'm just going to take care of myself.
That's awesome, dude. And I did want to ask a product-specific question. How do you like the Juve?
I like the Juve. I think it warms me up. And, what's interesting is a lot of people have done quantification where you get your testosterone checked pre and post, like a 3-month intervention. I think Ben Greenfield's done a lot of work with this. And there is his anecdotal experience of his free testosterone rising. I mean, really what this light does, this photobiomodulation, is it penetrates deep into our cell, and it speeds up the activity of mitochondria. It also increases nitric oxide. There's all these good, beautiful aspects of photobiomodulation. But it's only in the past 5 years has the fitness industry really started focusing and taking a look. It's old science. It's just under a new microscope. which, I mean, you could say the same thing about emotional health.
Yeah, and I mean, that happens in the health and wellness fitness industry all the time. Is what's old is new. Maybe we got a little bit smarter, new research, or maybe we're just bringing it back for the hell of it. I've seen a lot of that go on over the years. But no, I actually was introduced to that product recently. I don't have one, and I was just curious about how you liked it, and something I might want to try out.
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's worth a shot. I would say if you have an analytical mind, quantify it. Take some blood work, then do it for 3 months, then measure. If you just trust in it, if you just like how it feels, well, then give it a shot.
Awesome, man. Well, I've really enjoyed our time together, but I want to make sure that we get to the quick fire questions of the show. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, man. What's the hardest workout you've ever done?
The SealFit 20X. The
nice.
20X is a 14-hour crucible. We did it from 8 at night to like 10 or 12 the next day, overnight, soaking wet, being screamed at, doing Murph, which is 300, 200, 100 pull-ups, air squats, push-ups. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And we did it soaking wet, tired. So 20X wins the cake.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I have some of my own Murph and SealFit experiences, and it's most fun you never want to have again, right?
Yeah, I don't think I want to do it again.
All right, man. In your opinion, what's the best activity for building mental toughness?
Best activity for building mental toughness is committing to being your best emotional and physical self in this crazy world. And I say crazy because, I'm going to be a little politically incorrect right now, but I don't really care because this is my deepest truth. We live in a world that is not set up for our physical and emotional health. Everywhere you turn, you're being bombarded by toxic messages. Everywhere you turn, you're surrounded by toxic food. And our entire environment is set up right now with a narrative of buy more stuff to be happy. You can't be content and physically well unless you look like this. And it's really hurting people. And so I think the biggest exercise for being a healthy human right now is to be committed to this process of continuing to discover your physical and emotional intelligence. Living your life well in itself right now in this modern age is the most challenging edge.
Now, if you could only have one piece of equipment to train with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
My body. I mean, if I had to pick, it would be a pull-up bar because I could do everything else I needed to do without a pull-up bar. So it would be a pull-up bar.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's great. And where are you located?
I'm in Encinitas, California, kind of like North
yes.
County, San Diego.
Yeah, you're really close to SealFit and all that goodness.
Yeah, SealFit actually closed, so I think they have a new facility. I don't even know where their new facility is.
Oh, well, I haven't been keeping up in a few years with them, but man, that's it's cool that they got a new facility. But Encinitas is awesome.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place.
All right, man. The question of the show: what is the best advice you have for becoming a better human? This is 100% open-ended.
Okay, I'm going to shorten it because I could probably talk for 50 minutes again. But I really believe that to really answer this question, we have to define what a healthy human actually is. And I believe a healthy human is somebody that is feeling in their body physically well, has mental fortitude and cognition that is giving them the availability to connect with people and relationships they care about, and a deeper aspect of connection to faith. This mind, body, spirit, this triad exists for a reason. If you look at nature, if you look at most things in life, the rule of threes always applies. Beginning, middle, end. The tide comes in, it stops, then the tide goes out. We are born, we have this life, then we die. There's always the rule of threes. And so our humanity, becoming this better human, it's the same thing. It's respecting the laws of nature, taking radical and honestly loving ownership for your physical state, your mental state, and your connection to faith and spirituality. You do those three things, and you're being a great human.
Couldn't agree more, man. All right, so I know a lot of people have been listening, and they're going to want to check out your resources, everything. So what's the best place for people to learn more about you and what you're doing?
Yes, thank you for having me. This was really interesting. I like the directions we went. If I was polarizing to some people, I'm not sorry. Just reach out to me on social. Let me know at WellnessForce, wellnessforce.com, WellnessForce all over the interwebs. Let me know if I said anything that triggered you or if I said anything that you believe in too. I want to talk to you.
Awesome, Josh. Well, I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for being on the Better Humanology podcast.
Thanks for having me, man.
Your best. Losers always whine about their best.